All right, back again. Episode 9.
Yep.
Can't believe we're already at 9. That's wild.
It's been pretty nice, crazy 9 weeks.
yeah, for sure. We've drank a lot, we've learned a lot, and we're going to keep learning like a couple of machines, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Speaking of machine learning, what is our topic this week?
That's exactly what it is.
There
Machine
we
learning
go.
and deep learning. We're just going to dive into a little bit more of the technical side of AI that we discussed last week.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. And speaking of last week,
Mm-hmm.
we had a bunch of misses on the cocktail department because we left it up to I'd say chance, but really, programming.
Yeah, yeah.
And AI not having taste buds just really pulls from things it thinks works historically, right?
Yeah.
So it pulled a lot of flavors together. It was very salty. It was very bitter, and it left me a little salty and bitter after having drank those drinks. So you actually had the idea, rather than letting AI do the cocktails this week, you made me do all the cocktail recipes. So
Yes.
these are all my original creations as a bartender. So at least we know some of them will be good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've got 3. And of course we're going to start with bourbon, obviously. And then we've got something very much like bourbon in the next couple. That kind of just runs right through it. Drink 2, we're going to go with a aged moonshine.
Oh, okay.
Aged and finished moonshine. And then drink 3 is going to take an unaged moonshine and pair it with a little bit of higher end aged rum.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
we're gonna play with a few different things here, show you a few different techniques, have a little bit of fun along the way, and get a little tipsy. So as per usual. So is there anything we need to address before we jump into the first cocktail? Or?
Well, I think the very first thing is you mentioned it. There's something called outfitting.
Okay.
Outfitting is kind of when an AI becomes so trained on a particular concept or idea that it gets stuck in it. An example of that in the real world is a bartender makes an old fashioned. They have a very specific bourbon that they use, and if you ask them to use a different bourbon, they get stuck. They don't know what to do.
Okay.
And so they just kind of freak out. AI can do the same thing, and it's kind of, I think, why every time you were searching for a cocktail last week, it was Negroni, Negroni, Negroni,
Yeah.
because there's so much data in AI from TikTok and other social media platforms that Negroni is this big thing now.
Yeah.
And that's why AI is kind of like centralizing that point for us. So that's outfitting, and we want to get away from outfitting. Machines learn, we decided machines don't learn as fast as we do or as good as we do, so we're moving on.
Or have as good a taste.
Yes.
So, okay. I gotcha. Well, outfitting. I've never heard that term before. Okay. So let's start drinking. Y'all at home, you look a little sober. So, because I can see you through the camera, we are going to start with a bourbon this week. This is the Burton James bourbon. This is actually their whiskey, but I have their bourbon also. I just don't have it in front of me. We're using their whiskey tonight. Same thing, basically. I mean, there's a few details that separate it. All bourbon is whiskey.
Yeah.
Not all whiskey is bourbon.
Yep.
There's Tennessee whiskey. There's Irish whiskey. There's Scotch whiskey. There's Japanese whiskey. There's rye whiskeys, and all the things. There's a million different, feels like it, a million different types of whiskeys out there. Bourbon being one of them. So to say bourbon and whiskey, usually I use them pretty interchangeably.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to just normal people, if I were to talk to people in a bourbon club or at a distillery or something, there are obvious distinctions there, and I've probably hinted at there. We'll go into those differences and details later. What makes something bottled and bond? What makes it a bourbon over a whiskey? What makes Tennessee whiskey stand apart from the rest? There's a lot of red tape and fine print that makes those distinctions. So, Burton James, what I like about this is it's a Kentucky whiskey. Like I said, they also make a bourbon. They have some vodka, stuff like that. But Burton James is historic. Just like the tavern that we're sitting in right now. Burton James is from the early 1900s. He was a real guy, Major League Baseball player.
Okay.
Minor league most of his career, but he did have a stint for a couple of games with the St. Louis Cardinals. And so he had some runs and he did some damage there. But he mostly played in the minor circuits down in Texas for the most part. And he earned a nickname. They called him Jesse. Jesse James, because he was really famous for stealing bases, and he had a really quick catch and release that reminded people, catch the ball and release it immediately. And he was an outfielder. Reminded people of the way that Jesse James was a quick draw.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So they called him Jesse James, which is why we have a cocktail here in the tavern that we're in. This place is 230 years old. It was built as an inn. This tavern room was a tavern, from what I understand, all the way back 200 and some years ago. And rumors swirl that the outlaw Jesse James was here. The story goes that as they were coming through the area, they pulled off a job east of here. They were heading west of here to stay with some family and to hide out for a little bit, let everything die down. One of the horses threw a shoe in this general vicinity, and because there's a blacksmith on property, they came here. Most natural conclusion. And then while they're killing time, they threw some back, threw a few cold ones back in this very spot. So
yeah.
So we created this cocktail to honor the late great Jesse James. And there's quite a few people that still frequent this place that have familial ties back to him. So pretty cool. Burton James, my original recipe on this cocktail 2 years ago was different. We redid it a couple months ago, and it's been way more popular. So we are going to go with I believe it's not 1.5 ounces of this Jesse James whiskey, or bourbon if you have their bourbon. We're gonna do that. Okay. Then, because this county is so good on sweetness, we got a little Amaretto. Amaretto is a nuttier liqueur, and so we're gonna add about an ounce of this to that. It'll sweeten things up. We don't actually need any simple syrup, and because we're talking about cowboys, I do make my own bitters. This is a Sassafras and Sorghum bitter. So we're going to put 2 drops of this in here. I don't know. I'm sure somewhere out there somebody makes and sells a commercial Sassafras and Sorghum bitters. Sure they do. They have every kind you can imagine of bitters out there. So you could probably find it. And if not, drop a comment. I can tell you what I do to make my own if you really want to try this drink. And then because we are talking about sassafras and sorghum, nothing says that quite like a nice root beer. Root beer. So this is Freddie's root beer. They make this and sell this at the Buffalo Trace Distillery. In case anybody's ever heard of Buffalo Trace, we're just going to top this glass off with root beer.
Ooh, it already looks like a great drink.
Oh, it's refreshing for sure. And then we're going to add a couple of cherries to the top of that. Boom. We'll grab some straws and we will head over to the sofas. And yeah, if you make this, I really want to hear what you think. Is it a good cocktail? If not, what would you change about it? Let us know.
Yeah, sweet. All right. So, Joey, we're over here with our Jesse James cocktail. Yeehaw. It tastes pretty stinking good.
That's a good way to get started.
It sure is. Just like we have learned from our, we'll call them mistakes last week.
Yeah.
AI also does its own learning. Okay. And the episode this week is Machines That Learn, and it's all about machine learning and deep learning.
Okay.
So first of all, what in the world is machine learning? We kind of talked about it just for a brief second last week. But machine learning is a subset of AI, and it's where algorithms look through data, they learn from the data,
yeah,
they make decisions based on the data. But what's key to note is machine learning requires structured data and human intervention.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing is, what the heck is structured data? Structured data is things that you can put in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Things that have rows and columns and are easy to point out what it means.
Sure.
Okay. Unstructured data is that stuff that doesn't go into an Excel spreadsheet. It's like you take the Excel spreadsheet, you take social media posts, you take viral videos, you take social media information, you take all the raw data in the world, and it's unstructured.
Gotcha.
Okay?
That makes sense.
Okay, so
There's
think
not a lot of structure to social media.
yeah, exactly. It's chaos.
Yeah.
So think of machine learning as that recommended for you section on Netflix, on YouTube, or you can think of it as that email spam filter, where it takes the email, learns that you're going to click that spam button on the email, and it says, okay, any emails that have this data, it's going to be spam most likely, so it automatically puts it in that spam filter.
Sure.
Not always 100% accurate, but it does. It starts to learn. It's algorithms that learn on data.
Okay.
Okay. In programming, the way that it works is you would take an input plus a rule, and it would give you an output.
Okay.
Okay. Think of that as, if this drink has both lime and tequila, call it a margarita. So it has input from the drink and the ingredients, a rule that if you combine these ingredients, then an output is what your drink is called.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Machine learning is different. It's not input plus rules equals output. It's input plus output equals rules.
Okay.
All right. So what does that mean? How does that work? If you give AI 1,000 pictures of margaritas, you're giving it the output of the margarita, and you're inputting all that data into it, the pictures. Then machine learning says, I'm going to develop my own rules based on what I'm analyzing on what a margarita is.
Based on the input you give it.
Yep.
Okay.
The input you give it, which is the output you want, and it then develops its own rules.
Okay.
Okay, so that's machine learning. 3 different types. There's supervised, there's unsupervised, and there's reinforcement. Okay?
Okay.
Supervised learning is you give AI labeled data, okay? In other words, you give it a picture and you say, here's a picture of an old fashioned. Then you give it another picture, you say, here's a picture of rum and coke. And then another picture, here's a picture of a margarita, et cetera, et cetera. You're telling it what the picture is, okay? Then it learns from that. It starts to adapt and understand based on the different drinks that you give it or the different pictures you give it of different drinks, because you're labeling it every time. Okay, then you have unsupervised, where you give AI unlabeled data. So this is, here's a bunch of pictures. I'm not going to tell you what they are. Analyze them, find the similarities between them, and then tell me what you think they are. And then I'll tell you if that's a yes or no.
Gotcha.
Okay, then there is something called reinforcement. Think of this as playing a game or training a puppy. Okay, if a puppy sits when you tell it to sit, you give it a treat. If a puppy jumps when you tell it to sit, you penalize it in some way. You say you don't give it the treat.
Right.
Okay. AI does the exact same thing.
If you give it treats?
It's not necessarily treats so much as it is an approval of, this is the correct response to what I've given you.
Okay.
And then you say this is not the correct response. And AI, even though it doesn't have emotions, tends to try to do the thing that you're programming it for or trying to train it to do. So it goes for the reward-based actions. Think of this as the Roomba vacuums. Okay, the Roomba goes in your house without you giving it a floor plan or anything. It goes in your house and it goes and starts to vacuum up the floor.
Sure.
Well, when it does that, if it hits a wall, that is a penalty to it, and says, oh, I hit a wall, I couldn't go any further. It begins to learn from those penalties to know the floor plan of your house. That's kind of the same thing.
Interesting.
So all of this, though, all the supervised, the unsupervised, the reinforcement, it all requires human intervention.
Well, the problem, I think, with the supervised, though, is that your learning is only going to be as good as the inputs you give it, right?
Yes.
If you give it a picture of a rum and coke and tell it this is a snake, it's gonna, like, the rules are gonna be completely different.
Well, you're right, and that is a key important factor to mention. Is all AI has this bias, and the bias is based on people who programmed it or trained it. So that's something super important to keep in mind.
For the people that think AI is evil, AI is a tool.
Yes.
The people who developed it are evil.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Someone who creates the AI, trains it, and if it starts to do funky things, look at the people training it.
Yeah.
Because it probably wasn't that AI was just doing funky things.
Yep. That's our little disclaimer for the episode.
Yes. Now, there's also a concern, too. If you think about reinforcement learning, there are instances where AI has adapted because it was looking for a certain reinforcement. It knows what the positive outcome is. And so even though it is supposed to be looking at a particular set of data and doing this thing, it looks at what the reward is going to be and what it needs to do to get to the reward, and will sometimes skip steps.
Gotcha.
Or will sometimes go a little bit outside the lines of what it was supposed to do to get to the reward faster. That can create big problems because you may have AI that goes outside of the bounds of what it was intended to do, and it starts, just seeking the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow instead of taking the journey to get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes the journey is the most important part. All right, so this is where we're going to get a little bit technical. Okay. Machine learning has two different principles.
Okay.
The first one is linear regression. The second one is decision trees. Okay. Linear regression is basically, and this is the common focus for supervised learning, but it is basically when you take a straight line and plot it on let's say, you know what a scatter plot is? You've got one of those graphs, and you got an X and Y, and you just got dots everywhere. Gotcha. So that's a scatter plot. Typically, a scatter plot, as long as it is linear kind of data, is going to go in a line, right?
So trace the dots and...
Yeah, so you can have graphs that go, if you don't have just a bunch of dots everywhere, and you have just a few subsets of dots, you might trace it and it look like this, but with an upward direction.
Sure.
Linear regression is it skips all this and just does a straight line as closest to the points as it can.
Okay.
So whatever the average is to make it go in that straight line.
Okay.
Okay, that is good for math and calculations and simple tasks. What it isn't good for is those things that require a little bit more to it. It's the things that are not quite a straight line. Okay. Think of this as if a customer drinks 3 drinks, then their blood alcohol content is going to be, some number, Y. We'll call it Y. If a customer drinks 30 drinks, their blood alcohol content is going to be this number, and it's going to be much higher.
I'll be passed out.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're probably not going anywhere after 30 drinks, they're definitely not going anywhere.
Ooh, 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor.
Yeah. Now you can introduce other information to this data set. Things like, what is the customer's age? What is the customer's gender?
Yeah.
What is their weight, their height? All of these things, because all of those things are going to impact, what their blood alcohol content is going to be based on a number of drinks and what kind of drink it is.
Yeah.
So once you get past that extremely easy XY linear regression model, now you go into decision trees.
Okay.
Decision trees are going to be for that non-linear data. And you know what a flow chart is?
Yes.
Think of it, you've got a question at the top.
Okay.
And it says if, we'll do an example for drinks. Okay. Is there tequila in this drink? And you say yes. So it moves to the right.
Oh, yeah.
Is there tequila in the drink? No. It moves to the left.
Okay.
Okay, now the next question is there bourbon in the drink, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, but let's say that it said yes on tequila. So now it says, is there lime in the drink? Yes. Okay. Is there triple sec in the drink? Yes. Okay. Result is this is probably a margarita. Now, what's interesting about decision trees is we talked about AI last week and how I get really frustrated with people calling things AI that aren't AI, that are just if-then statements. That's heuristics. Decision trees is taking heuristics and if-then statements and self-creating them. It's not pre-programmed, hard-coded if-then statements. It's the AI is going to say, I answered the first question. Let me come up with a couple other questions.
Yeah.
So then ask a question, and then ask another question, and keeps doing that until it's come to a conclusion or a result. And
I had a bug on my finger.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be like, what's he doing?
But so that is decision trees. Interestingly enough, with decision trees, you can trace from beginning to end. It's easy to do that.
Yeah. It's like 100 questions digitally.
Yes, and each question is self-created by the AI to determine what the next step is.
Okay.
Okay? We're going to wrap these drinks up. We're going to go get number 2.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about deep learning.
Deep.
And explain the difference, why deep learning is deeper than machine learning.
Okay. That sounds like I need another drink to understand.
Yes.
All right. Drink number 2.
Yep.
We're going to use rocks glasses on this. All right, we're bringing back our friends Casey Jones.
Awesome.
We like the Casey Jones distillery here. It's good stuff. This one is, last time I think we talked Casey, we talked about their bourbons and their whiskeys and stuff like that. Casey Jones is another historical figure.
Yeah.
I didn't plan it this way, but here we go, story time. Casey Jones, so we're sitting, like, you can look out that window right there and see the land between the lakes in western Kentucky. And the land between the lakes is a national recreation area. It's not a national park. National recreation area controlled by the federal government that sits between the Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. Lake Barkley is really the Cumberland River. Kentucky Lake is really the Tennessee River.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a strange thing to take the Tennessee River and call it the Kentucky Lake. But anyway, I digress. Back before they dammed the rivers and made the land between the lakes, the Indians used the what we call the LBL as hunting grounds. From what I understand, nobody actually lived there. No tribes actually lived there. This is well before people, and they called it the land between the rivers. And so between the rivers is what it was known as. On this side of the river was a town called Canton. On the other side of the river was a town called Golden Pond. Golden Pond was the moonshine capital of America in its heyday.
Yeah.
Late 1800s, early 1900s, even through Prohibition, because stories say that there is even in this day, down in, was it Fenton? Down in the Kentucky Lake side, that little strip of area was a landing strip where Al Capone would fly his little plane in from Chicago, land there, meet with the moonshiners of Golden Pond area, and he would fly back out, and then under cover of darkness, his trucks would roll in, load up, roll out. So really super cool moonshining history in this area. A lot of outlaws, not just Jesse James. And Casey Jones was one of the most prominent of the moonshiners from the Golden Pond era. So Casey may have met with Al Capone himself. Really pretty cool. Casey's grandson or great-grandson, AJ, is the one who opened and ran the Casey Jones Distillery in Hopkinsville, about 35-ish minutes from here. So he actually goes back to Casey, is kin to Casey, the original, and so they named the distillery after him.
Nice.
So, yeah, so super cool. An outlaw in his own right. But yes, this is their barrel-aged moonshine. It doesn't say moonshine on the bottle because we're not in Gatlinburg, but it says spirits distilled from corn and cane. But this is finished in an Amburana barrel. Amburana, if you remember back to when we talked about cachaca, it's a Brazilian oak.
Yeah.
And so a lot of 9 episodes, I don't even know what we've talked about anymore. But, whiskey, bourbon, moonshine, it comes off the still clear, right? It comes off not with a lot of flavor to it, right? If you ever get something like a White Dog or just a regular moonshine, which I have somewhere, we'll do that one next. But it comes off clear. It doesn't have a ton of flavor to it. It definitely doesn't taste like bourbon. Bourbon is going to get all the color, all this beautiful dark coloring, and all of its flavor, most all of its flavor from the barrel, from the wood that you put it into. So a Brazilian oak is a big deal because, first of all, this would not be called bourbon, even if it were a bourbon or a whiskey going into a Brazilian oak, because bourbon has to be done in an American oak barrel. Yeah. So what the Amburana does is it imparts a very, very pronounced cinnamon kind of flavor. Like, that's the first note. If we were to drink this neat, the first thing you would get is cinnamon out of it. And the first time I drank it, I was like, whoa, it's like kind of like a good Fireball. Yeah. So not as, I think Fireball's a little more sweet, but anyway, we're going to go with this one. This is a more recent cocktail. Don't really have a name for it. We called it the Velvet Revolver, but the Velvet Revolver, if you were to Google that, is going to give you a totally different drink. Yeah. I just like the sound of it, and it's very outlaws. So we're going to, we'll call this an Untitled cocktail, but this came up for our Valentine's Day celebration we just did here. I had a couple of bottles of this sitting on the shelf from an event we were going to have that we never had. And so I was like, what can we do? Found this, pulled it out, started playing around, came up with something that's pretty tasty. So we're going to go 2 ounces of this Amburana aged moonshine. 2 ounces there. All right, we are going to then do a little simple syrup, just about a ½ ounce. That's probably not enough there. Okay. ½ ounce of simple syrup. We're going to give it ½ ounce of lemon juice. Okay, and next, we're going to do bitters first. We're going to do a dropper of aromatic or an Angostura bitters, just to give it a little bit complexity to your cocktail. And then the secret that makes this a Valentine's cocktail in my book is just some strawberry puree. We didn't have time to make homemade strawberry puree. We did make strawberry compote for a cheesecake, which isn't that much different, truth be told. It just has big chunks of strawberries in it, and that wouldn't really go well in a cocktail. Be choking down the strawberry. All right. So I'm just going to give this a little stir so you get that strawberry puree mixed up and blended. Probably, I don't remember if we shook it or if we built it in a glass. I think we probably would have shaken it in the active bar. It's faster, but we're going to throw some ice in here. And what's crazy is you'll notice, I mean, like, looking at the glass, there's very little, it's not even half full, right? When you put all the stuff in it, but you had the ice, and it goes straight to the top. Yeah. So, it's not really deceitful. That kind of implies that it's done on purpose to trick you. It's just, it's a little deceptive. You get a drink that's served up, like in a martini glass or something. It's like, man, that doesn't look like a lot, but you know, you add the ice and boom. Yeah. Take the ice away. Some people, in my experience, they're like, I want less ice. Like, that means I'm going to give them more alcohol. You know what I mean? Like, no, you still get the recipe, dude. I'm going to put some orange wedges. I got some nice Cara oranges. They feel a little more blood orange. Feels a little bit more romantic, I guess. Yeah. I'm not sure why blood is romantic, but yeah. Cheers to that, sir. Oh, yeah. So.
Oh, that's a wonderful taste.
It's fantastic. Unless you don't like bourbon or dark, heavy spirits, then you're not going to really go for that. But yeah, it's definitely better than a Negroni.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. For sure.
All right. We're going to take these back over to the sofa and keep this conversation rolling. So, yeah, come with us.
Well, Joey, we're back. We've got cocktail number 2.
Number 2. Yep.
We called it the Velvet Revolver, but then we said, yeah, that's already another drink, so it's kind of the unnamed cocktail.
Yeah, the Untitled deliciousness.
Yeah. Well, this one is really good. I've had it the last 2 nights, one each night. I will say it's one of those drinks that, you know, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that it's one of those you drink one, and you're like, the strawberry is really good in this, but it's super sweet. And after the first one, you're like, maybe it's time to switch to something a little neater, or a little, you know, less sugary.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure. And it's totally different. I just took a sip and I was like, totally different than the last drink we were drinking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's no soda in this.
Yeah.
Okay, so going from there to deep learning. I mentioned that machine learning was a subset of AI.
Yeah.
Well, deep learning is like that subset of machine learning. It's still machine learning.
It's the bourbon of whiskey.
Yes, it's when you start to get a little bit more granular, right? You're starting to introduce this thing inside of a thing.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a pretty good example actually. Machine learning, it looks at just a few variables, whereas deep learning uses neural networks. Neural networks, what does that mean? Well, when I say neural, you probably think brain.
Yep.
Okay. Neural networks were designed to imitate the neurons firing in a brain. Okay. Because, you know, as technology would be in the progression through history, we have to make technology as human-like as possible, so we created this thing called neural networks that imitates the human brain. Because the human brain is super fantastic. It is amazing if you start looking into the science of how the human brain works.
Yeah.
Deep learning takes dozens, hundreds, thousands of layers all stacked on top of each other all at one time. Okay? The goal was to mimic human neurons and how they fire to recognize patterns. Humans don't have to be told to recognize patterns. Humans just recognize patterns. Okay? It's kind of like last week I mentioned that if you train a young child or a kid with pictures of a cat, they're gonna, in 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pictures, they're gonna know what a cat is.
Sure.
Okay? The idea behind deep learning is to do the same thing as fast as they can, but it doesn't happen in just a couple of pictures.
Gotcha.
We talked about structured and unstructured data. This is where you put the unstructured data, deep learning.
Okay.
When you add that unstructured data, the deep learning then finds the features of a thing automatically. So with machine learning, you said, this is an old-fashioned. Take a look at the picture, analyze the picture, you're going to see a rocks glass. You're going to see the ice. You're going to see the bourbon. You're going to see the orange peel. You're telling the system what to look for, okay? With deep learning, you don't. What you do is you say, here's 1,000 pictures of an old-fashioned. What do you see?
Gotcha.
It has layers that it goes through. So layer 1, it says, I see edges in this picture. Layer 2, it says, I see shapes. Maybe it's looking at the rocks glass. It sees the shape of the glass. It sees the shape of the ice. It sees the shape of the orange peel. Layer 3 is looking at the colors inside the shapes. It says, okay, I see brown liquor. I see the peel is orange. The ice is mostly clear. By the time it gets to, let's say, arbitrarily, layer 10, it says, this is an old-fashioned. These are its characteristics. I can now pick an old-fashioned out of any picture you show me ever. It does all of this without human intervention. At the very end, a human says, yep, that's right, you're good, keep going. In a second, we're going to talk about last week and how deep learning would have helped us just a little bit.
A little bit more.
Yes. So what's interesting, though, about the black box, I mentioned a little bit ago.
The black box in an airplane?
No, the black box that is AI and deep learning.
Oh.
I mentioned a little bit ago that with machine learning and decision trees, you can trace every branch. From beginning to end, you can watch how it progresses and understands what it does.
Okay.
Deep learning is a black box in the sense that you cannot trace from layer 1 to layer 10 what it's doing. The engineers who designed AI cannot trace from beginning to end how it comes to a conclusion on the things that it's looking at, which is a little bit scary, but nevertheless is kind of fun to think about. This, like I said, that's the opposite of decision trees where you can trace every branch. Because of the number of steps and the calculations and the things that have to happen every single second with deep learning, it requires a lot more computational power, a lot more resources. We talked about last week how resources for AI were very limited and how it was, right now it's not structured well for resource gathering, because we're selling all the consumer RAM so that companies can make AI, and we're selling all the GPUs because companies want to make AI, and consumers are just stuck not being able to get all their stuff.
Sure.
Right? So the individual users, GPUs are what you use in the not in place of, but in addition to the CPUs, because CPUs by themselves, standard CPUs, traditional CPUs, are not strong enough or smart enough or fast enough to calculate all of those small math calculations that have to happen. Okay, so we're going from there to something called back propagation.
Okay. Propagation makes me think of plants.
Okay. Interesting. That's not the first thing I think of, but I also deal with networking for a living, so I think propagation in wireless infrastructure. But back propagation, in a second you'll see why, is what would have been really handy to use a little bit of last week. The first step for deep learning is the forward step, okay? You have the input to your drink, the ingredients, the proportions, and then it goes through this layer of neural networks, right? And several layers. I said 1 through 10 earlier. It doesn't have to be 10. That's kind of an arbitrary number, but just several layers. Okay. Each neuron inside this neural network has a weight, which is the importance of a thing, of a factor, and then it has a bias. So we kind of understand those terms just in the English language, but in the artificial intelligence or the machine learning, deep learning, kind of context, weight is this number that we give a thing to determine how valuable it is in the calculation.
Okay.
An example of that. When you make a drink, which is more powerful or has more flavor profile, bitters or club soda? Bitters. So if you add bitters to a drink, you're going to give it more weight as far as the flavor profile than you are the club soda. Now, club soda adds your volume more, but you're not looking for volume, you're looking for flavor profile.
Right.
So bitters has more weight. Bias is your starting point. It's that number added to the sum of the weighted inputs. What does this mean? If you make a drink that has vermouth in it, and it's a sweet vermouth, that drink has a bias of being sweet because of the vermouth.
Okay. Or
With
fruity drink.
Yeah, it has that sweetness based on the things that are already in it before you ever add sugar.
Sure.
Sugar is going to be an input that you give it that has some kind of weight, but the ingredients that are already in it gives it that bias of some level of sweetness. Okay? So that's the bias. So you take the inputs, you add it in, you give it a weight, and then you add the bias to it so you know which way you need to lean. The network says, I think, based on these ingredients, this is going to be a delicious mojito. It doesn't have a clue. Last week, we got AI-generated cocktails. It did not have a clue, except for it took inputs with a weight that it created and a bias. Now, what's interesting is the first time you ask AI to do something, it's going to use a weight that is random. It does not know, except for statistically, what it's seen before. Okay. Then you have the loss function or the yuck factor.
So I probably should have went back to AI and said, those drink recipes were not good.
Yes.
So it could learn.
Yes, because here's what happens next. The network, the AI, it takes everything that it did and compares it at this step to what the truth is. The truth is what we decide, what humans decide. So AI said last week, this drink is a 10 out of 10. And we said, no, this drink is a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I feel
And we tell that to AI. It then calculates the error in what's called the loss function. The error being the numerical value representing how bad the model was originally. Okay. From there, we go to step 3, which is the backward step, or the tuning. This is where backpropagation's name comes from. We said it was input and output to get rules in machine learning. Okay, so we had all these steps, layer 1 through 10, or layer 1 through 100, or however many layers there might be.
Yeah.
Backpropagation is taking that error and then working backwards to figure out what went wrong. Okay. So then there's something called the gradient. You use calculus, specifically we call it the chain rule, part of calculus, to decide what the gradient is. This tells the models the specific weights that were used that contributed most to the bad taste of the drink. Okay. So I said earlier that the first time around, the weight that AI assigns is totally random. It does not have any information the first go around to know what the weight should be. We tell it, hey, this drink just had a little bit too much gin, or it had a little too much of this, or too much of that. So then AI says, that's the weight I'm going to tone down. I'm going to bring that number down so that it has less of an impact in your drink. Okay?
I did ask it once. I don't remember if it was for last week or if it was for something else, but I was like, hey, I need a drink recipe for whatever. We had something going on. It gave me one, and it put elderflower in there. And I made the drink, and I was like, no. And I went back, and I was like, I need something else because elderflower tastes like I'm drinking perfume. And it got funny with me. And it was like, haha, you're right. It's like elderflowers come straight off the Macy's perfume counter. And I was like, that's amazing. And yeah, so then it gave me something without elderflower.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was a responsible AI user in that case by telling it, no, try again.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And what's funny is you mentioned elderflower, and one of the bartenders last night, with one of the Valentine's Day specials, she mentioned the same thing, that you guys had a drink that had quite a bit of elderflower in it, I guess, and after tasting it a couple of times, you guys were like, yeah, this is just a little bit too much. Yeah, so, yeah. It's humans have an innate ability to recognize things faster than AI does.
Sure, because we have taste buds.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when it comes to taste, because of the human physical features. Okay, so we talked about the gradient. There's something called gradient descent, which is just the optimization of your model. And this is kind of like, imagine a hiker is walking through this foggy, dense fog area, and they're going downhill into a valley, but they don't know how deep the valley is. They can't necessarily see in front of them. So what do? You take small steps, and you feel out the steps in order to not throw yourself into a hole or into a cavern or something like that, or trip on a route, because you can't see in front of you.
Sure.
So the AI does something similar, where it takes a very small step to the downward slope of trying to minimize this error that was given in the previous steps. Okay. Then after it takes that step, it analyzes, hey, this step was a good step, or this step was a bad step. It adjusts the weights accordingly. So it, like I said earlier, it says maybe the gin was too dominant. Let's lower the weight for the gin for the next round of cocktails. Okay. It does this on a just crazy computational level, and requires thousands of iterations of it failing or not failing. The iterations, they're called epochs, which anybody who knows, studies timeline and history, epochs is a common term for them.
Big term, like.
Yes. So AI doesn't just get it initially. It does a thing, it calculates if it failed or succeeded, it then determines what the failures were, and it repeats the process with slight variations on the weight over and over and over again until it gets the closest value to 0 in the errors that it can. Okay. It starts with random weights, I mentioned, which is just chaos. Mm-hmm. Last week, we asked AI to do a thing. We didn't give it any feedback except for the fact that you told it, no, I don't want to use bourbon, I want to use something different. Yeah. And so it created this thing, but it didn't have enough information to go on. Humans do the same thing with biological back propagation. We talked about this last week and a couple episodes ago. But I mentioned a story from New Year's Eve where I drank a bunch of bourbon, several glasses. Yeah. I drank champagne at the end of the night, right at midnight. Mm-hmm. And the next day I felt like crap the whole day. Yeah. Because of that bubbly in the champagne. And then we talked about the guest that came in that offered champagne, and I mentioned that story, and I knew with just a glass that was all I was having for the night. Mm. Humans do the same thing with back propagation because we understand that when a thing happens, we need to make adjustments. So I made an adjustment to my life that I'm not going to drink a lot of champagne, if any champagne, after drinking other liquors or other drinks. So the difference between machine learning and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Deep learning is taking a thing and analyzing it with unstructured data. It's taking all of your structured data plus your unstructured, no labels, no information, identifying where it needs to go from here, and then deciding after thousands or millions of iterations of doing an analysis what the next step is to best suit the results that the human is looking for. Okay. So I've talked about machine learning, deep learning. Yeah. We're going to go get a third drink. Okay. We're going to wrap this whole thing up.
All right. And we're going to learn.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
We are back for round 3. So feeling pretty good after those last couple, but if you're not feeling good, this one will get you there for sure. All right, I did say rum. We are rocking out with a nice, this is a 5-year aged rum. I like to do a gold rum on this one. It feels like it has a little bit more flavor. It can stand up with the other flavors that are in it. 5-year, there's just a little bit more quality. Mm-hmm. You know, you can do just a well gold rum. We do that if you order it in the tavern, just for cost purposes. But since we're not, worried about cost, I went with the Plantation as well, because Plantation is a really solid, they make a lot of really solid rums from all around the islands in the Caribbean. And it's really pretty, it's a really good price point, while maintaining a lot of that quality and that craft kind of feel. So it's not, if you've got Bacardi at home, use Bacardi, whatever. I wouldn't necessarily use a spiced rum, or something too dark, like a Myers or something. So, but yeah, we're going to go with the 5-year rum here, aged rum. And then I've got some moonshine. This is not Gatlinburg moonshine, that old smoky stuff, which is fine. I'm not knocking it. It still takes a craft in order to craft it, right? There's talent and passion behind it. But it just feels very touristy. Yeah. And especially when you get into that flavored stuff, that flavored moonshine that they put out, man, it'll give you a headache. I'm not a fan at all. And for the longest time, that's what I thought moonshine was the flavored touristy stuff. And then I came to Western Kentucky and I was like, no, this is way better. Kentucky moonshine is legit. It's that Golden Pond, kind of callback. And so crafting this one is kind of, I want to say impart a love letter to Western Kentucky, but also it is the inn above us. My wife crafted her own soap scent, and there's a local soap maker that's over in Hopkinsville that we met when we first opened this place, and she wanted her own custom scent because there's there's something with that olfactory sense.
Yeah.
Right? That it harkens back to a deeper time, and you just, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'll be walking through a mall or something, and I'll smell something, and it's like, I feel like I'm in high school again, right? It's like
nostalgia
a perfume
feel,
of a girl that you met, maybe your first love, you know, it's that Bath and Body Works lotion that she used to wear, you know, or it's, you know, there's a certain, like, maybe those flavored nuts, you know, that they cook in the middle of the mall, and you're like, oh, I remember a time. There's something transportive about smells. And so we wanted people that come here and stay here to remember their time here long after. So we have a candle and we have a soap that is our own custom scent. And it starts with bay rum, okay? And then it is bay leaf, tobacco, and rosemary.
Okay.
And those 4 things, it's a fantastic smell. It's not overpowering. You know, it's a goat's milk soap and candle. So really, really good, allergen friendly, all that stuff. So we got the rum. Okay. We've got, this is a simple syrup that I made, and floating in the bottle is a bay leaf and a rosemary sprig. Okay. So we made a rosemary bay leaf simple syrup that we're going to add to this. And because it's Western Kentucky, this is an area that they grow a lot of tobacco. If you're driving up and down the highways, in the fall when they're harvesting, you'll see barns that are just smoking. Yeah. Don't call the cops. They're not on fire. They're curing tobacco. Yep. And a lot of Amish around here too. So you get a lot of that stuff, also known as the black patch. That's the kind of tobacco that they grow here. And so I have a little bit of pipe tobacco, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. So moonshine tobacco, you know, love letter to Kentucky, rum, just because that's what my wife chose for our candle. So I think it is, it's 1.5. 1.5. I didn't mean to turn cocktail time into story time today, but it just happens.
No, it works.
That's what happens when people drink. They tell stories. So, all right, 1.5 ounces of this. It smells so good. Of that rum. We're gonna do a 1/2 ounce of this rosemary bay leaf simple syrup, and then we're gonna give it 1 ounce of this moonshine. This moonshine, by the way, the Slate Fork, this comes out of the Southern Kentucky distillery, which is in, what does that say, Burkesville? Burkesville, so just on the other side of the state, kind of over by Lexington area, but south of it, kind of by Danville where they make Wilderness Trail. Oh, and the one fun thing, going back to the first drink, that Burton James, I forgot to mention, the Burton James Distillery, if you're interested in making a trek, it's in Adairville, Kentucky. Burton James, the baseball player, was born in Tennessee, but he died in Adairville. Oh, okay. And so the distillery is there because that's where he lived out the rest of his life. So, all right, we've got one of these little smokers, cocktail smokers. We're going to take a pinch of this this Kentucky pipe tobacco, stick it down in here. Oh, it smells so good. I love a good pipe tobacco. All right, and then we've got one of these little torch lighters, and we're just going to bring it in here. I'm going to move this to the side so you can see. I wish you could see what's happening inside this glass. Maybe this will pick it up. All the smoke filtering down. Can you see that? And you just keep it going. I had somebody in here the other day going, man, I have a cocktail smoker at home. It just doesn't work right. I don't get enough flavor. And I'm like, keep it burning. You know, keep that flame going. This whole, and then you close it, cap it up. It traps the smoke inside. This is actually a really beautiful one because you can see the whole top is just white. And you can see it from every camera.
That's awesome.
So we're going to let that sit for a second, and then we'll go on to smoke the other one. But we just want to kind of impart that smoky flavor. Just makes the whole room smell amazing.
Yeah, it does.
And this is one of those cocktails that when somebody comes in and orders this in the bar, everybody stops. Yeah. They watch because they smell it wherever they are. They're like, what is that? And they turn, they look. If I sell one of these in a night, I usually sell 3 or 4. Oh, yeah. Just because people are like, what is that? I need to know what that is. So, yeah, super, super cool and very unique. Everybody's like, what do you mean you smoke pipe tobacco into a cocktail? I don't know. I'm not going to, let the hubris out and say I invented this. I don't think I invented smoking a cocktail with pipe tobacco. I know if you go into a restaurant or a bar and they do a smoked old fashioned, they're going to use wood chips. I have that. That's what comes with any of these cocktail smokers that you get.
Yeah.
So no big deal there, but I don't know. It was just, there was something about it when one day when my wife was telling me the ingredients in the soap, I was like, wait a second, this sounds like a cocktail. Like, but how do I do tobacco? And I looked at, it's like you can infuse bourbons with different flavors. I'll like infuse bourbon with bacon.
Yeah.
Make a maple bacon old fashioned kind of thing. It's really good in the fall. But, infusing that tobacco directly into it, that can get a little crazy because it gets a little bit too potent.
Yeah.
It can do things to people unexpectedly. If they have a very low tobacco tolerance, it doesn't do well. So it's just, that seemed a little too risky. This one is a control burn.
Oh, look at that.
Wafting out. It's beautiful. I love it. I hope that catches on the camera so lovely. All right, we're going to do this one here. See if I need fresh. Yes. Yes. Look at all that. I think we're getting a good smoke in here. I don't think I need fresh tobacco. It's mesmerizing to watch, though. So we're just going to keep rolling that around. It's leaking out the sides of the glass. It's beautiful. All right. And my torch just keeps going. We're going to cap that, let that sit. What's cool about this first glass, take it off, it's just still lingering in there, like fog rolling in over the water in the morning.
Yeah. It's like going across the bridge over here.
That's so cool.
At 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. All right. So you don't want to ice before you smoke because you're putting fire and heat and water down your drink.
Yeah.
So after it absorbs a lot of that smoke in there, we're just going to throw some ice in, and then we'll just give it a little stir just to kind of get it all around. Okay, so that is that. We're going to let this one mellow a little bit, but try that. He's never had this one before.
Wow. That is something. That is good.
Unlike any other drink. So, yeah, that tobacco really brings it out, and it's going to give you maybe a slight extra buzz on top of the alcohol as well, just because of that tobacco, but, nothing you can't drive with, so it'll be fine. So, people drive in their car all the time. That's why they had ashtrays back in the 80s.
Yep.
I don't know if they still do, but... All right, we are going to... we're going to head back over to the seats and finish this out, but I'll add ice to this here in a second, and then we'll get going.
All right. Okay, Joey, we're back with drink number 3.
Yes.
Kind of our final thoughts about AI and machine learning and deep learning and those kind of things.
I was thinking about while we were smoking this cocktail, how AI goes downhill like a hiker in the fog.
Well, yeah, because when we were watching the fog, or not the fog, but the smoke go into the drink, it was like, gosh, that is like something out of a horror movie. And it's just like that hiker going down into the deep fog, looking for that gradient descent, that optimization.
I'd like to say I planned that on purpose.
Yeah.
But I did not. It's just super serendipitous that this drink encapsulates deep learning.
Yes, it does.
Such a visual way. So.
And so we just took a drink. We ran outside and did some things and did a little bit of cleaning up in between takes. But the drink has so much smoke to it now. Yeah. That tobacco smoke, and it's such a nice flavor. It's very interesting. I enjoy during curing season. Driving from here to Hopkinsville, there's a particular farm that is always curing their tobacco, and it smells fantastic between here and there. I remember when I first started my job and moved out of, I was still in the Murray area. It's about 30 minutes from here. And I would go from Murray to here, And every time that I was driving, I would smell a tobacco farm that just didn't smell great. But I started working here and started driving from here to Hopkinsville.
Yeah.
And the smell from the barns here is so much better. I don't know what kind of wood they're using to cure and to smoke, but
toward Murray, they're doing that dirty tobacco.
Yeah. But here it's there's a nice smell and a nice aroma to it.
Yeah.
It should be noted, going away from the nice smells and the thoughts and the ideas.
Sure.
I am not a mathematician. Okay. I am also not a neural network scientist. I don't do machine learning and and deep learning as a job. So the ideas and the concepts of the things that I've mentioned in this episode, they're very limited, okay? It gets way deeper than what I've explained.
Sure.
This is kind of a bird's eye view to how the technicality of all of it works.
Yeah, I don't think we have the time, and I don't think they have the patience to give the full deep down breakdown of, so I mean, bird's eye view is good.
Yes. Now, if you are one of our listeners or our viewers, and you're like, man, I'm super technical, I super want to dive into this concept, there are thousands of videos on YouTube about machine learning and deep learning. Go jump into them. They can explain the mathematical process. They can explain the way the computational calculations work and all these things. And then at the end, they're still going to tell you that we don't understand what AI is doing. Because even, like I said a while ago, the engineers don't understand it. And that it's kind of a black box because it just disappears. It's like, okay, I understand what happened in layer 1 and layer 2, but I have no idea what happened between layer 2 and layer 10. But they will give you a better understanding. I've watched a couple episodes of different channels this week on YouTube. They kind of explain that and kind of go into it a little bit deeper. So people who have a mathematical mind, they're very into the calculations and how it works, they should go look for those on YouTube for sure.
Yeah.
This is a tipsy bird's eye view.
Right.
Speaking of the human advantage, context and nuance, okay? Machine learning, deep learning, they are hungry for data. You have to input thousands and thousands of pictures so they can learn what needs to happen. You input 1,000 recipes, and the machine learning learns what a margarita is based on those recipes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
But what's different between machine learning and humans is it didn't take you 1,000 recipes to figure out how to make these drinks.
2 or 3 sometimes.
Yeah, and 2 or 3, because after 1 or 2, you're like, this doesn't work, or this does work. Machine learning, AI, deep learning, it assigns weights and balances based on statistical information, and then does a calculation to decide what's next, and does it a bunch of times. You looked at these recipes, and based on a certain mood, based on a certain experience, based on a certain whatever, you had intent for your drink. So you created a drink with an intention of, I want this flavor profile. 1 or 2 drinks in, it told you what the flavor profile needed to be.
Yep.
Based on...
Mostly weights. I mean, some things did change, but yes, obviously, Jesse James, I wanted it to feel cowboyish.
Yeah.
I wanted to use that specific Burton James because of the namesake. And then, with this one, it was about, these are the ingredients in our soap.
Yeah.
So it was just about finding that right mix and balance, and yeah.
Yeah, and you may do a couple iterations where you're like, okay, the first drink, this tasted terrible. The second drink, this tasted a lot better, but still there's something off. The third drink, you're pretty close by the third or fourth drink.
Yeah.
AI is constantly doing iterations, or epochs, as we mentioned earlier, where it's doing thousands of analyzations of a thing, and it's like, this doesn't quite work. So, a weight might be between 0 and 1 with, 0.1, 0.2, or 0.11 and 0.12 and 0.13. And so it's doing all of those calculations. Humans don't do that. We just say, this wasn't right. And we tone it down or tone it up based on a feeling. Yeah. So that's something super important to notice, is that humans, based on intent, can come to a faster realization than AI can.
Sure.
The other thing to point out is AI is more of a stochastic parrot. Stochastic means random.
Okay.
So
I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. So that's like a random thing. It's predicting the next most likely ingredient. An example is gin and vermouth. It doesn't know why gin and vermouth need to go together, but mathematically, 90% of martinis have gin and vermouth as being part of the ingredients next to each other.
Sure.
So it doesn't know that it needs to be there, but it knows that statistics say they probably work together. When we drink a human-made cocktail, we're doing a decision tree, which I talked about in machine learning, that was influenced by culture, it was influenced by history, it was influenced by our personal experience. And we don't do just this gradient descent, the hiker going downhill in the foggy valley. We're not trying to minimize the loss function or get rid of the errors so much. We just know. Too much is too much.
Yeah.
Too little is too little.
Well, and honestly, too, when you're doing anything with the public, but in this case cocktails, you're never going to have a zero loss function because everybody's tastes change, right? The second drink we had, which, you and I are like, this is great. It's got the Amburana Moonshine, the strawberry, all that stuff. Bartender that worked all weekend doesn't do anything that even resembles bourbon.
Yeah.
Took one sip, said it tastes like cough syrup.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there is no zero loss.
That's right.
In cocktails or anything with the public. You can't please everybody all the time.
That's true.
So,
and that's what's so interesting is human perception of a thing and human behavior is so different than computational behavior.
Yeah.
A computer is going to analyze statistics and majorities and, the things that are most relevant to it getting that reward that we talked about earlier. Humans aren't that way. Every human is different. Every human has its own independent personality and beliefs and behaviors and taste profiles. Every human's going to analyze a drink a different way. Sometimes it's analyzing it in a logical way. Hey, this has just way too much bourbon. It's way too strong. Yeah. And sometimes it's a analyzation of, the way the drink was made. Hey, you put the bourbon in before you put the ice in, so the ice didn't have a chance to melt, and the bourbon is pretty strong, and the ice is pretty. It's all different. We as humans, and your bartenders and barbacks are fantastic at the things that they do, and they're learning different ways that different customers like to do different things. Yeah. There was in fact, your bartender last night, she said, there's a customer that I learned, they have a specific way that they want an old fashioned to be made. They want some of the cherry juice kind of dropped in there, or whatever it was. And so she said, for that customer, now I know that when I make him a drink, I need to do it a little bit differently. And that's, the same thing for other parts of human behavior and in human life is we always analyze with intent. How can we do the best thing for the next person based on their preferences? Yeah. And every preference is going to be different. AI doesn't do that. It's looking for the majoral statistical probability of what's going to be great for the large populace, which is good in its own right, but it's not great for everyone on an individual level.
Sure.
So what does all this mean? What is the end of this? The end of this is machine learning is kind of your recipe book. It's your this and this and this and this creates this, okay? Deep learning is kind of your intuition of that seasoned distiller. It's, how can I take and analyze all of these properties on a large scale level and fine-tune things based on statistical probabilities to get the best ingredients for a particular cocktail or drink. Human intelligence, that's totally different. Human intelligence is the bartender who sees you've had several drinks and statistically knows it's time for you to have a water to water it down, but realistically knows you're going through something and it's time for you to have a double.
And it knows you're not driving.
And it knows you're not driving. So that is machine learning versus deep learning versus human learning.
Yeah.
And that is the current crux of the conversation for AI. I am sure in weeks to come, we are going to come back to this topic because it's so relevant in today's culture. But I think this kind of gives the impression or gives the audience a step to, okay, I kind of understand what's happening when I get on ChatGPT or AI or Gemini or Grok or wherever, and you type in a question, this is the background of what's happening. But I think it's relevant to let people know that as good as AI is, as good as ChatGPT and Gemini is, and we talked about last week whether or not it was coming for people's jobs, as good as they are, human intelligence, behavior, personality, and understanding is what people need to be holding on to. Use AI to your advantage. Use AI to help take care of that administrative overhead. Use AI to, do all the things you don't want to do. That's fine. But be your own person. Have your own creativity. Look within yourself before you look to AI. Then use AI to help balance the things you're missing, or AI to help advance the things or evolve the things that you don't necessarily have the capability to do.
Sure.
If you don't have time to read 1,000 encyclopedias to find the definition on a certain thing, that's fine. Use AI to do that. But if you're going to use AI for a certain thing, fact check it when you're done. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing that. You can have AI generate an answer for you or some ideas for you, and then take those ideas and those things that you've learned and throw it into a dictionary and encyclopedia. Make sure it's accurate, but it can reduce the time that you're spending on a project without reducing your creativity, without reducing your humanity and your personalization and independence as a person.
Well, I mean, and to that point, like I've used, whenever we have a big event here or something, or a wedding or whatever, and we will batch cocktails, and make gallons of them for larger groups. Like, I will take a recipe and I will throw it into AI and I'll say, hey, can you scale this up to go to, I don't know, 2 gallons?
Yeah.
Right? And so, or to feed however many people. And so it'll do that, but I've caught it numerous times where I'm like, that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And so I have to go back and I'm like, no, that's wrong. It should be this. And it's like, oh, and then it recalculates.
Yeah.
We did it for this weekend's dinner where we're like, hey, I need to, threw in all our recipes and said, we're feeding this many people. And it was able to go statistically, we had 5 entrees on the menu. It was like statistically this many number, based on, it said 20 years of menu experience, this percentage of the people will order this percentage will order this percentage will order this. And it helped us, kind of figure out how much of what we needed to order and put a grocery list together. And for the most part, it was really, really good. But there was one part where I was like, I was at the grocery store and I called my wife and I'm like, hey, I need you to double check this with the AI and with your recipes because it's saying we need, what was it? It was like vegetable or beef broth or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is saying we need like 21 cups.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, whoa, okay. And she comes back and she's like, it's really 7.
Dang. Okay.
Like,
yeah.
Wow, that was way off. I'm like, it didn't look right because I'm like, if what you're saying is true,
mm-hmm.
you know, this is the container of, you know, whatever, and I was like, I need to get like 25 of these.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, no, you really only need like 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm like, that's a way different.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, for the most part, yes, it's great, and it is a great tool to be able to, you know, we use it all the time. I'll write up a social media post, and you know, usually I'm in a hurry, but I'll draft everything, put everything I need into it. I'll throw it in AI, and I'm like, polish this.
Yeah.
And it just basically adds emojis, tweaks a couple of words, and then it makes it fit to pop on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll do that. But yeah, every once in a while we'll use it for something like that, and then if we take it at face value, we end up getting in trouble. We end up spending too much at the grocery store. We end up, you know,
wasting ingredients, wasting resources,
balancing our batch cocktails.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So, yes, definitely don't rely too heavily on it. But it is. I mean, it's, you know, it's not flawless.
Yeah.
So just like, I guess that's what humans and AI have in common is we can all make mistakes.
That's true.
So.
Yes. Yeah, and I was having a conversation with somebody last night here, and the conversation led to the conversation about you know, flaws in AI. AI is only as good as the trainer.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that briefly earlier today too. But if your trainer is just so statistically out of whack, you know, it's your final data is going to be out of whack.
Sure.
And that is relevant to just making sure that, you know, if you put all of the political data in the world into an AI, they're going to see things from the left and right perspective and the independent perspective in just this crazy analysis of time. And they're going to have some skew one way or the other based on the things that it sees.
Sure.
And the final result of the things that it sees, and maybe the bias of the people that lean left or right or independent. And that can create this AI that is going to be left or right standing or left or right leaning. And so you just got to be super conscious of the fact that you may have a favorite AI, a favorite LLM that you go to, and that AI or LLM has been trained on data that's different from your personal experience.
Sure.
So when that comes to be, because it inevitably will, you just have to look at it as, hey, I'm my own person. I use this as a tool, just like a hammer, but I still swing the hammer the way I want to.
Yeah.
That will help you be your own person with your own creativity, your own inspiration for how you do a thing, without just becoming this mindless, numb tool of AI instead of using AI as the tool.
Yeah, for sure.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conclusion for now for AI, machine learning, and deep learning. And next week, we are going to jump into the nuts and bolts of networking, which is exciting for me because that's my background, that's my education. Okay. I'm excited to dive into that because I know so many people that just don't understand how networks and the internet and how all that works.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do it in a way that people, by the time they're done next week, they're like, hey, I understand how the communication from my computer to the router, to the gateway, to the internet, to somebody else's router, to somebody else's computer works. And we're going to do all that while drinking some interesting and nice, clever beverage that is not generated by AI.
No, not anymore. So, yes, we will figure out a drink that makes networking fun.
Yes. So, as always, we're Tipsy Tech Talk. I'm Joseph Reibold, General Manager of an IT company here in the local area.
Yeah, I guess we just jumped in and didn't even do
introductions.
Yeah. This week. I'm Joey Ruff. I'm a bar owner, bar manager, a long time customer service and hospitality aficionado.
Yep.
So, yes, join us next week where we do this all again with a different set of drinks and a different set of
tech topics.
Tech talks.
Yeah. So in the meantime, obviously, follow your local laws and regulations. Stay safe, but stay tipsy.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
Do not drink and drive, my friends.